Hey, this is Razzle, and I am proud to present our non-spoiler Ant-Man review. I've already had the opportunity to see the film twice, so I'm ready to rock and roll on this one. Here we go. Ant-Man is directed by Peyton Reed. It stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Corey Stoll, Michael Pena, and Michael Douglas. Ant-Man is a superhero film. It's basically like Marvel's take on a heist film. It's about basically a guy named Scott Lang who's a thief. He and his kind of group of his gang. He gets out of jail. He's having a hard time adjusting to that life outside of being a criminal. And basically, one thing leads to another. He gets the Ant-Man suit, and then he has to save the world. That's a very brief description of the plot, but I'm sure if you're watching this review, you probably have some kind of idea of what the movie's about. Going into this movie, I had insanely low expectations. I remember ever since hearing Edgar Wright's departure, and then everything after that, even the trailers, I was not impressed with. I actually was starting to get kind of annoyed with the trailers. I didn't watch any of the TV spots or anything, so I tried to avoid spoilers. I usually try to do that. But everything I had seen in the trailers and just everything I'd heard about and even the posters, I was not impressed, and I was really thinking this movie was going to be something that I wasn't going to enjoy all that much. But boy, I was absolutely wrong. This movie was awesome. I loved this movie. I really, really loved this movie. And it may have been because of my low expectations, but going into this movie, I had such low expectations, and I loved this movie. This is, in my opinion, one of Marvel's best films, and I'm going to explain why. I'm just going to start off by saying this movie was insanely fun and one of Marvel's funniest films yet. This movie it sticks to a goofy kind of tone, but it stays consistent with it. So it works perfectly. It does exactly what Marvel this whole time with all their films does perfectly. And it stuck to that. And it stayed small. It didn't try to be, no pun intended, because it didn't try to do too much. It had a big enough scale, but it still kept the story a little more personal, a little more smaller and more focused on smaller details. So I think that's why this film worked even better for me, because it didn't try to be this huge thing. Kind of like that's the problem I had with Thor: The Dark World. That movie tried to kind of be this huge thing, and I think it just missed the mark because it just didn't feel as wide, because because the Avengers weren't there and everything. It didn't feel like it was in the universe. It kind of felt like it was on its own. This movie felt like it was part of the universe while still being an important detail. It didn't even involve a lot of different characters, but it still really felt a part of this universe, and that's something that I was really impressed with in this movie. That's something I didn't expect that would work as well for me. One of the huge positives for me is the cast. I thought every single person in the cast was spectacular. Paul Rudd was great. He was kind of quirky, and he just kind of brought that charm that I think you needed for the character, so I thought he was the perfect casting. I thought Evangeline Lilly was pretty good. I didn't think she was spectacular, but I think she was serviceable, and I'm excited for the future of her character. Michael Douglas, watching the trailers and everything, I thought he was going to be phoning it in. I really didn't think he was going to be taking this property too seriously, but he brought it, especially in a couple scenes. He really brings that credibility to the film with he's just a phenomenal actor, and he really brings it in this movie, and I was really happy to see that. I thought Corey Stoll was actually pretty good, but his character wasn't very good, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But honestly, this absolute standout of the movie, Michael Pena kills it in this role. He destroys it. Every single time he's on screen, he steals every single scene. He was phenomenal. He was the funniest part of the movie because he had this charm, and his charisma was great. He had great chemistry with other people in his group. He was phenomenal. I was not surprised. I was not ready for him to be. I wasn't surprised because I know he's a great actor, but I was not ready for his character to steal the movie like he did. What a great! I was so impressed with that. He was charming and wonderful and just hilarious, and I was so happy with Michael Pena in this film. All right, it's about time I start tackling on some of these negatives. I love this movie a lot, but there is a lot of problems with it. I'm going to start off the main big flaw of the movie. Corey Stoll's character, Darren Cross. I think I got it. The Yellow Jacket. He was a horribly, I mean, this isn't much of a surprise because unfortunately Marvel just can't get villains right. He was a horribly developed villain. We see his motivation and it's explicitly explained, but the problem is it's just explained through just exposition and dialogue. So it just, I mean, and they do show kind of like how he's a villain, but there's no progression. He's just from the beginning just this evil guy that I feel like if you're standing around him, you'd feel uneasy because that's basically all he is throughout the whole movie. So he just isn't developed. He's just the obstacle for Ant-Man. That's all he is as a character, and I hate that Marvel keeps doing that. I wish they'd develop a really good villain. I just wasn't impressed with it. You know, he just wasn't all that well developed. He was just kind of a character just thrown to be an obstacle, basically. Another problem I have is the pacing is a little uneasy sometimes, especially in the beginning, the first and third act. It kind of moves rapid, very fast, and it's like trying to just move the story along really fast. This is a small negative. Actually, I didn't think it was too offsetting, but you know, that was a small thing. Another thing I kind of mentioned just a little bit ago, a lot of exposition through just dialogue, basically just explaining to us why things are a reason instead of showing us. So it was kind of awkward the way they explain things, and it just didn't feel natural. Those are actually two very small negatives. I actually don't have a lot of negatives for this movie. I was actually really happy with it. In general, the main negative really is the villain, and there's other stuff spoiler stuff that I talk about in the spoiler discussion. You can watch that after this video. Ant-Man, I am going to give an 8.5 out of 10. I'm surprised. Going into this year, I did not think I was gonna like Ant-Man more than Avengers 2, and I did. Because I didn't actually love Avengers 2, but I actually really loved Ant-Man, and this movie. Maybe it's because it surprised me that I had such high expectations for Avengers 2 and low expectations for this, but this movie, I thought it stayed simple, and I just loved this movie. I was very surprised, and I'm very pleased to say that this was one of my favorite Marvel films. Thank you for watching Razzle. This is Ryan Havens here. Like I said, we have a spoilers discussion video. It's very long and very extensive. We talk about a lot of details in the film. You should check that out after this. We're gonna have that video is gonna be up. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that. And yeah, that's it. See you later, guys.